Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating journey hidden right inside people's wallets. We're going to look at how a nation's everyday money tells this incredible, deeply personal story of survival, independence, and modernization following the collapse of the Soviet Union. You know, when we think about nation building, we usually picture flags, anthems, or maybe constitutions. But the physical cash changing hands at the local market, well, that is where the real economic history is written. So let's anchor ourselves on the ancient Silk Road for a second. The name of Uzbekistan's currency, the som or som, isn't just some random label they picked out of a hat. It's actually an 11th century Turkic word meaning pure, and it refers directly to the pure gold and silver that served as money for merchants traversing the famous Silk Road. But as you'll see, this historical wealth and stability contrasts super sharply with the massive economic uncertainty Uzbekistan faced centuries later, specifically during the 1991 Soviet collapse. Which leads us to Section 1, Escaping the Rubble Zone, the quest for monetary sovereignty. You see, this quest was literally a matter of survival. When Uzbekistan gained independence back in 1991, they didn't magically just get their own money right away. Like a lot of other former Soviet republics, they actually continued using the Soviet and eventually the Russian ruble. But this was incredibly dangerous. It exposed the brand new nation to chaotic external monetary policies, not to mention a massive influx of excess rubles. They absolutely needed a way out, and that required a rapid evolution, going from relying on the ruble in 1901 to throwing up a temporary buffer in 1993 and finally establishing true monetary independence in 1994. And honestly, using that temporary buffer was a pretty brilliant macroeconomic defense mechanism. Picture this. The 1993 som coupon was basically introduced as a parallel currency, pegged one-to-one with the ruble. It served as this temporary shield for the domestic market, and it was decorated with really simple designs like cotton flowers, which was a nice nod to their key agricultural product. This clever move allowed the government to kind of learn the ropes of monetary policy. Then, on July 1, 1994, they confidently transitioned to the permanent som, which became the sole legal tender. They effectively swapped out a staggering 1,000 old temporary coupons for just one single new som. All right, moving on to Section 2, Crafting a National Identity, the Look of Independence. Now, what's really fascinating here is how the actual physical design of this new money became a deliberate tool to reclaim a suppressed identity. These banknotes essentially became a canvas for Uzbekistan's rich heritage. It wasn't just about adding security features, it was about pride, you know? Early notes used the Cyrillic script, but later series proudly adopted the Latin alphabet, which perfectly aligned with their national language reforms. We also see the inclusion of historical giants like Amir Timur, stunning Islamic architecture like the Registan in Samarkand, and these vibrant traditional Khan Atlas fabric patterns. And importantly, these notes are now printed domestically, right in Tashkent by Davlet Belgasi. It's like the money literally reflects the soul of the nation. Next up, Section 3, the Crucible, facing massive post-Soviet inflation. But hey, the journey wasn't exactly smooth sailing, and this new currency had to survive a literal crucible of post-Soviet inflation. To put that into perspective, by 2013, a 1,000 som note was worth just 60 US cents. Seriously, imagine going to the local market and literally having to carry these heavy, cumbersome bricks of cash just to buy your daily groceries. Practical, everyday life became incredibly tedious. The currency was surviving, sure, but its valuation and everyday use were under massive strain. And this crazy inflation actually gave birth to a fascinating little curiosity, the one-tiyin. Now, technically, the som is divided into 100 tiyin. But because of that massive inflation we just talked about, this specific coin became famous around the globe as the world's most worthless coin. It was valued at a microscopic fraction of a single US cent before it was finally officially withdrawn from circulation around 2020. Now, contrast that virtually worthless little coin with the 200,000 som note that dropped in 2022. Seeing a number that big might feel like a red flag, but actually, scratch that. It's not a sign of defeat at all. It's just a necessary, practical adaptation. It features advanced anti-counterfeiting measures, and it exists to handle larger values seamlessly in an economy that is rapidly growing and modernizing. It just makes doing business so much more efficient than carrying around those old, heavy bundles of cash. Let's get into Section 4, Modern Reforms and Future, the tipping point to global integration. So jump ahead to 2017. Under President Shavkat Mirziyoyev, Uzbekistan pulled the trigger on some massive economic liberalization efforts, taking 3 really bold steps. Step 1, they unified the wildly different official and black market exchange rates. Step 2, they allowed free conversion of the currency. And Step 3, they ended strict surrender requirements for exporters. Now, while the SOM did depreciate sharply at first, these dense economic policies actually formed a clear linear path to recovery. The central bank moved toward inflation targeting and a managed float, which vastly boosted investor confidence and economic openness. A real game changer. Ultimately, the evolution of this currency perfectly mirrors Uzbekistan's own shift from a closed, state-controlled economy to one that's actively embracing market reforms and international integration. Operating in a much more flexible regime today, the SOM supports some truly ambitious, forward-looking projects, like the Tashkent International Financial Center, as well as digital finance and widespread privatization. It proves the currency is no longer just surviving a post-Soviet transition, it's actively driving a modern, globalized economy. So, as we wrap up this explainer, take a second to think about the bills and coins you use every single day. From a fragile 1993 coupon that shielded a vulnerable market, all the way to a beautifully crafted symbol of economic sovereignty, the story of the SOM proves that a country's wealth isn't just in its natural resources, it's in its resilience. So, how does the physical money in your pocket reflect your own nation's journey to independence? Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this incredible journey.